A gift for the Jazz off season. I feel the need for speed. Final wrap on Big Al. Plus, I told you so. And a little bit better, but not great, is not good enough. Those will all be touched on in the upcoming edition of today's May 15th tip off. Boom, 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 boom. There's no one to root for. Boom, 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 boom. You can't root for the Lakers. Boom, 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 boom. How do you root for the Thunder? That's impossible as well. Boom, 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 boom. Miami can't be done. Boom, 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 boom. Kevin Garnett's a punk. Boom, 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 boom. That's my complaint on the NBA playoffs right now. By the way, they tip off Oklahoma City, LA last night as a Bay Area kid who hates everything LA, who lives in Utah, which hates everything LA, who lived in Seattle, which hates everything LA, and had their team stolen by the Thunder. That one's tough to watch. Man, that one's tough to watch. Uh, quick note for you. I yesterday answered, 2 days ago, answered about 2 or 3 questions on Sulia. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I liked the way that worked. The responses were good. I know some of you don't love Sulia. I hear you, and I'm trying to only use it in those circumstances. There are some benefits to all of us on that. There's some things in which where they rank how many people are reading stuff, and I've actually noticed already that we get pretty highly regarded. You guys follow it pretty loyally, and I think it's going to help us with some podcast guests and things like that. So that's part of the reason. I won't overuse it. I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten on that. There's a chance for a vocal today. Folks are in town because my daughter's got a little theater production coming up tomorrow, so everyone's flying into town to see her, and she likes it that way. And there's a chance at noon today I'll bust out a 30-minute vocal, but otherwise I'll keep doing some questions on Sulia. I had a funny social networking moment. As much as I love all this stuff, there's something called Strava. It's kind of a cyclist, runners social network where you can do a ride and then it ranks how you did compared to your last ride, but also ranks how you did against everybody else in the area. And I rode on Strava. I rode yesterday. I did about 34 miles. I did the Camas to Brown Canyons loop, and I felt great about it. I changed the way I rode a little bit. I think things felt really, really good, and I was pretty pleased. And I come back and put it into the Strava, and I'm like, all right, cool. All right, let's see how I did. And I look, and then you load up, and I'm 93rd out of 119 people who did one portion of the ride. Now, these people may all just be like famous for all I know. But nonetheless, it was seriously the most depressing letdown coming in off the endorphin high of the ride, feeling really good about my time and my progress and all that. And then, yeah. And then there was that. Just feeling completely as though, yep, I'm a loser. All right. Let's talk about the big news yesterday. Michael Lewis, Salt Lake Tribune, Matt Steinovitz, CSN Bay Area were kind of the first to have it. And then I built off that, plus backed up part of it. Gordon Hayward and Derek Favors are heading to the U.S. Select Team. Now, the U.S. Select Team is the team that will practice against the Olympic team. Now, that's, so they're not making the Olympics. They're not going, but that's a big week. And if you go look at what the roster of that team was last time, it was Derrick Rose, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, LaMarcus Aldridge, Al Horford, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Love, Jeff Green, Kevin Martin, Rodney Stuckey, O.J. Mayo, Robin Lopez, Luther Head. Hopefully Luther Head isn't where we're heading with any of our guys. But it's an enormous thing for Gordon and Derek to be a part of. It's a week of high-level basketball. It's a week of the playing against the best in the world. The Olympic team as of right now is Darren, Russell Westbrook, Dwayne Wade, Rose, Chris Paul. Obviously, Rose is hurt. Love, LeBron, Dwight. I think James Harden's going to end up being on that team. Eric Gordon. So it's the best in the league. Kobe, Bosh if he's healthy, Carmelo. And these guys get to go head to head with him. I talked to Ron Boone yesterday. Booner pointed out, hey, this. He goes, this is huge. He said, I was an Idaho State kid who came out, all these big names. I got into training camp, suddenly went up against them, and realized I could play, could kick their butt. This is really important for Gordon Hayward and Derek Favors, and particularly their personalities of who they are, to go head-to-head, highly competitive environments with these guys, be associated with them, and check their skill sets. What I think is going to be really interesting is with the LaMarcus Aldridge hurt and Dwight Howard out, Derek Favors, DeMarcus Cousins, Taj Gibson, and Dwan Blair are the four bigs. Favors is going to go into this thing, and other than Tyson Chandler, he's going to be the best big there, and he may be better than Tyson Chandler. Chandler's really good around the rim, and Derek's not yet. So, and Anthony Davis is going to be there, which is, a good litmus test from him. He's actually already on the finalist teams. I don't want to go so far as I think there's a chance that Favors suddenly makes his team, because someone would have to get dropped. They'd have to have a bunch of injuries. But this week for Favors in LA, when it happens in Las Vegas, I think is going to be incredible, because he is really going to test himself, and he's going to be better than almost everybody there. And that's going to be enormous. And when you get to the personalities of Derek and Gordon, it's pretty invaluable for them to go march up and face head-to-head with these guys and make plays and realize they can play with them. Gordon's, a low-key guy, and he's highly competitive, and he's not, it's very telling in our end-of-season interview with him when I asked him, if he surprised himself, and he was like, no, not at all. Now to get this honor, I texted with him yesterday, and, he's excited. It's a big deal for the Jazz. These two guys are the future of the franchise. These two guys are how this team's going to get better. We're going to talk about free agent acquisitions and all these other things all season long, but the reality on this team is they are going to get better because Derek Favors and Gordon Hayward get a lot better. And this is the setting for which they get to do this. Gordon's going to have tough matchups, LeBron and these guys, and figure out where he fits in. And, it could be humbling at times. Favors, I don't think this is going to be humbling. He has the physical athletic skills to be able to play with and be at times physically dominant. And that's going to be really eye-opening for him. This is a kid who's 20 years old who says he didn't really realize he was playing in the NBA till 3 or 4 years ago. Gordon's a guy who's 22 years old, didn't realize he was playing in the NBA till 3 or 4 years ago. These are huge moments for our two guys. So great recognition for them, great opportunity to be on that select team, practice against those guys, play in that setting, go have some great coaching. And then the other one is just the interaction with the primary players in the league. It can go both ways, but those guys will help you with their game. They'll say, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? So that's a pretty darn good setting. They probably aren't going to throw a ball at you, though Darren will be there. All right, I've wrapped up my I still have one more piece of these mega long preview or season reviews with Al Jefferson. I'm finding the Jefferson piece pretty eye-opening. And really what is eye-opening is how his game changed this year. From a year ago, that may be the most telling. He went from 38% of his offense being post-up to 48%. So he really just became almost exclusively a post-up, and either a change in the offense from Tyrone Corbin or whatever it is that he didn't get many balls on the move anymore. He really kind of went back to being the player that he was in Minnesota where he just posted up. The other one that was disturbing trend, we've had some trends that I'm surprised to find, and that's why I think this is worth it, and have been a little disturbing. The other one was that his free throw attempts were dropping. Well, what we discovered is that he is shooting from 16 to 23 feet. Last year in Minnesota, he didn't play as much, but he took 2.5 shots a game from 16 to 23 feet. Last year, he took 4.5. He was at a season high shots from 16 to 23 feet and a career low, career high and a career low shots at the rim. Now, other than Andre Bargnani, he takes the most shots from 16 to 23 feet of any center in the NBA. He's pretty good at it. He makes 41%. He's far better than the league average when you put all these things together. But even his average on all of them would come out to somewhere in the range of about 43, 44% when you're not going to the free throw line. Those are pretty inefficient possessions in the NBA. Late in game might be pretty good. But and then the other one, we just looked at, I used the NBA.com to look at restricted area shots, in-paint shots, or mid-range shots. And Al went from using 35% of his possessions in the mid-range to 41% this last year. And from the restricted area, he dropped from using 38% of his shots down to 31%. So Al really made a shift last year away from the basket, which there's just no question numerically when you analyze this. That's what we've revealed here, is that he really has made a move away from the basket. And that's not the trend I think you want to see in his game. And that's a bit disturbing to me. Defensively, Synergy doesn't show some of the weaknesses that we're all aware of. I'll have a chart today that shows that when he was on the floor, we allowed 107.5 points a game. When he's off the floor, we allowed 103.5. Some of that's simply because Favors goes on and off when he's not on. And I'll try to look into a little bit of when he's on the floor with Favors, where we are defensively, because I think that's really important. I did some of that earlier this year, and what you really turned out is that it wasn't a very good defensive lineup until you put Millsap in at the 3. I did some of that research because I thought that was really telling. So that even Favors on the floor with Jefferson didn't rectify a bunch of the defensive issues that this team was having. Other things, watching both Miami yesterday against Indiana, watching the Thunder and the Lakers last night, and watching the Spurs against the Jazz. This league has become about speed. And actually watching Denver a little bit. This league has become about speed. Size matters. Ask Reggie Miller. He had fun saying that last night. It matters. However, there's no question that this has become a speed league. The Spurs are insanely fast in the half court, both offensively and defensively, but the way they move the ball. The Thunder are a blur. And Miami, is electric in how they play. And the question for the Jazz has to be, do you try to combat speed with speed, or is there some other manner by which we're going to play? Favors has the athleticism to play this game. Paul, Al, I'm not sure. Devin's fast, but it's a different type of fast. I'm not sure how many of our other guys have that. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how we decide to combat that. I know for a long time there were some thoughts that when you can fight fire with fire, unless that fire is too strong, you better try to fight it with water, right? Like, there have been some GMs who feel when you got a team like Oklahoma City that are playing at such a high level, if you try to mimic what they're doing and build your team to match them, all you do is end up on the short end of the stick. So maybe there's some manner in which you try to become the physical team that combats that. But Oklahoma City looked very good. Game 4 against Dallas, to me, was really, really impressive by Oklahoma City in how they really very easily could have rolled that day. And we'll just go taking Game 5, and they closed that. And then to come out and blast the Lakers in that fashion, I think is equally as impressive and tells you a little bit where they are mentally, where they've grown. They're certainly not intimidated by anybody. They've had, both Russell and Kevin have had that international experience, which leads them to believe they're as good as anyone in the world, and they're playing like it. And that's some of the stuff we're talking about with Gordon and Derek. That experience of playing against the best in the world gives you that opportunity. Final notes for you today. Ramon Sessions was a pickup by the Lakers. Everybody went goo goo gaga because he was in L.A. So he's better than Fisher, but he's not elite. He's not great. He's only probably okay. He's got some things he does are pretty good. Call him above average. You got to be great at this point. When you're in the Final Four of your conference, the Sessions got exposed last night. You got to be great. If you're going up against Russell Westbrook and you're not great, you're going to have a tough time. And that's what makes building these teams so difficult, is that when you get in this setting, in these 7-game series against the best in the league at that position, they just expose every little bit of you. Where in a regular season game, you can generally get away with some stuff. Andrew Bynum, by the way, is having all of the same problems as Al Jefferson is having on the pick and roll. If you watch Bynum right now in the pick and roll on Westbrook, and Session looks bad because of it, it's all the same stuff. They tried to have him hedge. He can't come out that far and guard. He wants to just guard the area. Westbrook's pulling up from 16 feet and nailing it. That shot he has got, the fact he's added that shot is lethal. And suddenly they have no idea how to defend with Bynum. And that's a lot of the same problems the Jazz have with Al. Final one on the Boston-Philadelphia series. I mentioned this yesterday. Sometimes Shaq, Charles, and Kenny are great. You just can't listen to their analysis because it's kind of nutty sometimes. But Boston, from 16 to 23 feet, suddenly goes 7 of 18 the other night. Still good. I mean, we talked about they're a 40% team, but they weren't going to do what they did the first time. Everyone was like, oh, they got all these open looks. Those are the open looks that you want them to get. You want Boston to be shooting from 16 to 23. You want everyone to shoot from 16 to 23 feet. Those are the shots. And while Boston is one of the better teams in the NBA in that regard, that they do this better and make that shot. Garnett 3 of 3 yesterday. That's really become his shot. But in game 1 of this series, 76ers forced them to take 24 shots. They hit 11 of the 24. That's not a way they can live. Or if it is, that's 46%. That's how they won by 1. Next time out, they're below that, down at 39%, and they lose by 1. If I'm Philadelphia, I'm completely content with that. Neither of those teams, though, play with the speed that we were talking about. The speed of this game is what's changing everything. All right, that is tip-off today. Hope you were well. Get outside, have some fun, do your job, be nice to your kids, all that fun stuff. See ya. Bye.